We'll keep you on track.
Good morning. Welcome to the January 4th, 2024 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the agenda today, there are speaker request forms down on that end, I believe. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the secretary. At this time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. All items on the public hearing on item number 1, approval of the December 7th, 2023 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting minutes is hereby opened.
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Vince made the motion to approve those meeting minutes, and Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Light. There we go. Okay. Good morning, Zoning Board of Adjustment and Chair. Thank you for allowing me to present a variance request to reduce the minimum required lot area from 8,000 square feet to 6,969 square feet for a two-family dwelling at 1127 Holcomb Avenue. And I'm just going to use our little laser pointer here. A couple things I wanted to point out before we get started on a zoomed out aerial here is that while most of Millard Addition subdivision is single-family homes with detached garage, this kind of northeast corner of it, we have some, there we go, red dot, some fourplexes to the north and to the east across the street, across Holcomb Avenue. So just wanted to point that out. It is in advance. There we go. Okay. It is in the medium density residential zoning district, which allows multifamily uses, but the minimum lot size required is 8,000 square feet. The future land use category is, excuse me, identifies the appropriate use of the property as urban neighborhood, which supports higher densities for residential development. Holcomb Avenue is a local street on the major street plan. Here's just kind of a layout of the existing site. So the existing single kind of family residence as a proposed duplex. So it's an up and down duplex. And the upper resident will be parked off of Holcomb Avenue and the lower resident off of the alleyway. And the property owner is proposing to pave the parking spaces. So bringing it kind of more into compliance with the Rapid City Municipal Code. The reduction of the lot size is approximately 13%, which is kind of, we felt is a pretty reasonable and minimum adjustment for the use of the land. The property owner, the property has operated as a two-family structure for many years. We believe probably as like an ADU, like the property owner lived there, and then kind of like an ADU style setup for many years. So development and review team sees this kind of the property owner coming in, making this more legal, and then also making some improvements. The use is consistent and harmonious with the remainder of the neighborhood, and the request would not grant a land use otherwise excluded in the district. So the development and review team kind of recommends that the variance request be approved as presented. Going forward with some of the site photos, this is kind of the rear of the structure and the front side. Also some street photos, just looking at the front of the facade. The fourplex is across the street of Holcomb, so to the east. This is looking south on Holcomb. And then looking north at East Anamosa. Okay. With that, that's all I have. Development Review Team recommends that the variance request be approved as presented. The applicant is in the audience for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky? Oops, I went to Haven. Vicky? I think.
So the audience knows until that green light comes on, we can't talk. So, thank you, Jonathan. That was a well laid out presentation. So the current home, the building permit that was issued for this site years ago was for a single family home. We acknowledge, though, that that was years ago, and we've always just considered this property somewhat legal nonconforming, as there are several other multifamily land uses in the area. This is less than a 20% reduction. I could have, as the director, signed off on an exception and reduced this, but what my team knows is this. If it's going to change the use, and in this case from permitted single family to a duplex, I'm bringing it to you. We encourage you to support it. We think it's appropriate, but we wanted to put the neighborhood on notice so that if there were any concerns, they got that notice and they had an opportunity to have a conversation with all of us. To our knowledge, there has been no concern from any of the neighbors. I think the fact that they are going to be paving the parking spaces on site is a great improvement, and we do feel that because this is a use that is allowed within the zoning district, it's a minimal adjustment to maintain an existing land use, and on that criteria, we are requesting that you grant the variance. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky. All right, Haven, we'll go to you then.
I think that partially answered my question, because it's not obvious why this is in front of us. Apparently, from what you said, it presumably was a single-family residence, although it apparently has been used as a duplex for quite a few years. So I guess that's why it's before us, is that now we're approving the variance to allow the duplex. I think, yeah, that answered my question.
Okay. Eric Hikas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a huge fan of this project, and I'm a huge fan of projects like these. It's basically the ADU with a little more teeth. It sounds like we've got now two potential small families living in this dwelling. We've increased our occupancy, and we're using the existing infrastructure and the existing real estate resources we have. This is innovative, Rapid City, and I think it's the future. Thank you. I'll be supporting this.
Vicky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we have requests like this quite often. In many instances, if the property is being sold, the financial institute won't finance the structure unless they can get a rebuild letter from the city. And in this case, we couldn't issue that letter unless they did secure the lot size variance. Currently, they would be legal if if the owner occupied one of the residential structures, and then they could use the second as an accessory dwelling unit. By granting this variance, it does allow this to be a full-fledged income property where both units could be rented.
All right, appreciate the clarification. Any other questions on this one? Comments?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, Vince made the motion to approve the variance to reduce the minimum required lot area on item number 2.
With the stipulations outlined in the staff report for the 13% reduction.
And that's the minimal adjustment necessary to preserve the existing use.
Right.
And not to put words in your mouth.
Nope. Thanks for the correction. Yeah, I know.
And Brooke, I believe, seconded that. All right, the motion on the floor is to approve this variance. Is there any comments from the commission on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the motion? The motion carries. All right. Okay. Karen moved to the adjournment of Zoning Board of Adjustment.
I'll second.
And Vince seconded that. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That takes us to the Planning Commission. So we will now commence the Planning Commission meeting for January 4th, 2024. Again, if any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, please grab a speaker request form and fill it out, noting the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to, and hand it to the staff. And if you still have a cell phone on or not silenced, please do so now. Items 1 through 7 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 2, 23 PD 018, item 6, 23 PD 035, and item 7, 23 PD 037. The Rapid City Planning Commission's actions on these items are final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 7 that staff would like removed from the... Are there any items 1 through 7 that Planning Commissioner would like removed today?
2 and 7.
2 and 7. And are there any items that any audience member would like removed from for separate consideration? We're already going to take 2 and 7 off the list. Okay. Then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar items 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in accordance with the staff's recommendations. Mike Gallagher made the motion to approve those items,
I'll second.
and Vince seconded that motion. Haven, I have a light up from you. Was that just to... okay. All right. All those in favor of approval of items 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2. Haven, you asked to pull this one. I gotta get a light up from you. Oh my gosh.
It was kind of for the same reason, both 2 and 7. And the issue is the intersection there at Moon Meadows and Highway 16. Questions as to what the status of the Moon Meadows is east of 16. What's the future of Moon Meadows west Sheridan Lake Road, which should be vastly improved. But also, what is the plans for the intersection there at Moon Meadows and Highway 16? And I see Kent is in the audience, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to give him a chance to speak.
Maybe Roger, Public Works.
Yes, thank you for the question, Haven. Right now, we have a traffic signal plan to go into that Moon Meadows intersection that'll be done before we start the Sheridan Lake Road project, so before Memorial Day. As far as Moon Meadows, from Moon Meadows to Sheridan Lake Road, that's actually a county highway, and we own up to the cattle guard there, basically by the church, but beyond that is all county highway. And then to the east, we've been working with the developer for improvements to that. There's also a deceleration lane on 16 that's going to be installed, and several improvements. But the developer's been real cooperative with all our improvements and what we're trying to do. But basically a traffic signal in the next 5 months.
And then if you're going south on 16, is there a left turn option?
There's
on
already a
Moon
left
Meadows?
turn in there. It's, how do you want, I would say it's,
Actually, it was designed and
Ken, I gotta ask you to go to the
Yeah.
microphone if you're gonna
Kent
talk.
understands it better, but it's, the DOT installed the DOT installed what is essentially a left turn into Moon Meadows to the east right now. So it's kind of a different design, but it leaves the left-hand lane and goes. I'll defer to Kent. He knows it better than I do. He's out there more.
Mr.
Well,
Haig,
historically,
identify
perhaps, yeah.
yourself too once you're up.
I'm Kent Haig. I'm with Haig Development, also Altaterra Development Company, which is the owner of the subject property around there. And back when we did the construction of Moon Meadows Drive to the east under TIF 70, which paid off very rapidly. It was another TIF success story. We also designed and built a double turn lane coming from the city to turn left into it. It's actually a double lane sized for it. Right now it's only painted for one lane, but it's equipped to handle substantially more traffic when that day comes. Also, at the opening of Moon Meadows onto Highway 16, currently it's 5 lanes, so it can handle that double. And that's how it's built right now. So it was sized for tremendous growth in the future, we felt, it's obviously very adequate now. To underscore the importance of a stoplight there it is very tantamount to increasing the safety factor and dealing with the amount of traffic that is anticipated to go through there. Through that TIF also, the pedestals for the stoplights have been wired. It's my understanding also that the fiber optics for those stoplights are installed, and so they can, however they do it, they can talk to the one on Catron for emergency vehicle reasons as first responders and so forth. So it's all ready to go. All we need to do is a light. We did have a light purchased and delivered, which was put in storage, I think, utilized by the city elsewhere until the time, another time came, like very soon, when the city will place the one that's adequate for it now.
Thank you.
Eric, if I may, everything Kent said is spot on. We've got the signal equipment already on hand, and it's in the contract with the Sheridan Lake Road project that's been awarded. So everything's on track. As far as the Catron Boulevard one, you're right, there is fiber out to that location, so we'll be able to control it and coordinate it. Just a reminder, the Catron Boulevard Highway 16 interchange is going to be reconstructed over the next 3 years. So that's a major project that's upcoming. It's going to be a bridge north and south with Catron going underneath.
Yeah, I think that was my concern. That's a kind of a high-speed road and with a lot of traffic, and it seemed to me like the stoplight was a necessity.
All right. Eric Heikus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question, just looking at the site plan here. Looks good. What's located out there? There's 4 ovals shown by the main sign. What is that? What is that indicative of? I'm assuming parking, but I'm not sure. Just curious.
Which item are you on, Eric? 2?
2.
Okay.
2.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties this morning. There we go.
Yeah, up in the far left corner of the site by the main sign, there's 4 ovals. What are those?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah. Kip.
we believe those are the fuel storage tanks
Fuel storage tanks,
for
okay.
the facility.
Okay. Underground.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Kip. Appreciate it. That's my question. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So we're on item 2. Any other questions, comments on item number 2?
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay. With the 4 stipulations?
with the stipulations.
Okay. Vince made the motion to approve item 2 with the 4 stipulations. Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes. Item number 7. Haven, would you say that this was similar concerns? I got to get you up there.
Yeah, the same issue that I thought we needed to discuss was the traffic issue there at the intersection of Moon Meadows and Highway 16, but I think that's been adequately answered.
Okay. Any other concerns or questions on item number 7 from the commission?
Motion to approve? I'll second it.
All right. Mike Quasney made the motion to approve. And Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8.
So this item is a final plan development overlay to allow mini storage, a truck rental, and a retail facility on the properties located southeast of East Stoomer and Shelby Avenue. Yeah. So the properties are zoned general commercial district and office commercial district with an initial plan development overlay. The future land use is mixed use commercial. The properties are accessed by East Stoomer Road, which is classified as a proposed collector street on the city's major street plan. So this is the site plan submitted. The applicant is proposing to build a 15,700 square foot storage building in the northern portion of the site up here, and then build a 32,100 square foot storage and retail building in the southern portion. And then there's 6 mini warehouse buildings on the eastern and southwestern portions of the site as well. So this is the proposed elevation of the northern storage building. This building is 1 story or 45 feet in height. This is the proposed elevation of the southern storage building, storage and retail building. This building will be 3 stories or 37.5 feet in height. So these are the elevation drawings of the mini warehousing facility. So the code does require that security fencing be installed around the facility. The applicant has requested an exception to this requirement and indicated that the fencing will adversely affect the operation of the site because it has to be publicly accessible. Staff is in support of this exception. So this is the proposed landscaping plan. The applicant is also requesting an exception to the landscaping. So they're going to reduce it by 10% or 26,572 points. So staff is in support of this exception as well because the majority of landscaping is along the street frontage and will buffer the land use from the street. So this is a rendering of the project from Catron Boulevard. Another rendering further down Catron. Public notice was posted on the property. This is looking south along Shelby and looking west along East Stoomer. So staff is recommending that this item be approved, subject to the stipulations outlined in the report, and I'll stand by for any questions.
Vicky?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just knowing that this is a U-Haul project, and I think many of us have experienced what U-Haul can provide for a community. This is an area that is highly residential, and for those of us who do need to have access to services that U-Haul do provide, we usually have to drive up to Deadwood Avenue. So having this in this area with the combined retail component, we did feel it was a good fit, especially since they've been great to work with and have acknowledged that we need to have landscaping along Catron Boulevard to preserve that visual aesthetics of this upcoming commercial area north of Catron Boulevard. And Tanner did a great job including that in the stipulations of approval, that a majority of the landscaping would need to provide that buffering that the fence otherwise would. And so with that, we are in support of this project and will stand for any questions. Thank you.
All right, Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Full disclosure, I've used U-Haul a few times. So I do have a question, though, about the 20-foot wide major drainage easement. You know, we're talking about the screening on one side, and then we're talking about they're going to use landscaping that will face the new apartment buildings that are going up north of that. But is there a reason why they can't continue to do some kind of landscaping on the other side? Which is, I think that would be the Catron Boulevard side.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So the justification given in the letter of intent is that it's a 3-to-1 slope on that side. So the soils, or so that land was too steep for landscaping, was the justification. And then there also is that major drainage easement that you can see kind of where my cursor is, and it runs up all along this side of the property, which would prohibit landscaping. But the main justification that they used was that slope. Thanks, Kip.
Vicky? Sorry, gotta get you found here.
You may have noticed that one of the stipulations of approval is that they have to secure a floodplain development permit prior to a building permit. So this area of the property also has some inundation of 100-year flood designation. If any of you are familiar with the property directly to the east of this, owned by the Harold Beast family, that has significant floodplain and wetlands. So we need to preserve the integrity of that land in its current status to the highest degree possible. So I think we're getting the landscaping to the greatest degree that we can along Catron, and then looking at the elevation of the structural development as it faces Catron Boulevard. Again, it's been a work in progress. U-Haul's been great to work with. They understand that we want to preserve this as a high-end commercial area. We also know that this land has been sitting available for some time. It's a little hard to get to. And so this seems to be a good infill project for us, and it will meet the needs of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, so can I see the artist rendition of the way it's going to look from Catron, going down Catron? So this is looking north or west.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I worked for U-Haul when I was in college for 3 years. So for them to be making this kind of investment in our community, I think it's a galvanizing moment that we're going to see a significant growth pattern. The demographics they have and the performers they use for these kind of decisions, they don't take lightly. So this is indicative of where we're headed, I think, as a community. You can landscape a 3-to-1 slope, just saying. But I think this is a great project, and I also really want to compliment the amount of work that's been done for this final development plan. Being on the other side of this from time to time, this is a lot of work that's been completed in order for us to be able to visualize and see and check all the boxes that this aligns with our requirements. I think it's excellent work, and I'll be supporting it.
All right, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vicki, when you say retail element, is that relative just to U-Haul, or they allow outside businesses or companies to be housed on site? Is it just all strictly U-Haul?
I'll pass that question along to the applicant that's in the audience.
I like the design, by the way. I think it's
Once you're up at the mic,
nice
just
elements.
identify yourself for our records, please.
Sean Auden with U-Haul Company of South Dakota. So the retail element will be a U-Haul retail store, to answer the question.
Okay, that's what I assume. Thanks.
No problem.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions were related to the landscaping also, and I do understand the area and the drainage that's through there, the wetlands. And looking at the rendering that we have up right now, I'm thinking about the storage units that we've had in the past and trying to make them not so obvious, if that makes any sense. At one time, we didn't want them to be metal. that kind of thing. And then we had ways of trying to make the property look a little bit cleaner, or residential, if you want to call it. And I don't know if we still have that thing that we have to do that anymore. But if there's a way to buffer that, especially this particular area, as people drive by, it is a ways away from the street, and I understand that too. So I don't know if that's reasonable or not, but I was curious about the materials and landscaping or fencing, anything to kind of buffer that a little bit.
I don't know who to direct that towards.
I don't know either.
Yeah, so in the code
Somebody.
we do have,
Tanner?
if you're talking about the building aesthetics of the mini warehouse buildings, there is something in the code that talks about that. These mini warehouses did meet it because it was a concrete wall, and that's one of the stipulations in the mini warehousing is that it has to be concrete or wood simulated siding. So that was the material that they were proposing.
Okay, I guess I read that it was going to be metal building, so that's why I was asking that question.
If I'm gonna just guess by the rendering, it's probably the storage units.
Right. That's what I'm
in
talking
the
about, the
rendering
storage
appear
units,
to
yeah.
have a metal siding, but here they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. So these smaller ones would have a concrete wall, but those larger ones, it is going to be metal siding. So the larger storage buildings will be metal siding.
Just for clarity, the larger storage buildings would be the 40-foot tall.
Yeah, and then
one,
the 37.5 foot tall ones. Yep.
Okay. Well, unless there's any other comments about the landscaping, I mean, you just know my comments and my questions. It's not something that I'm going to say, I don't want this to happen, and I don't know how to, increase it and change it because of the drainage, but I just wanted people to know that I have some concerns is all.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
So, in taking all of that into consideration, I think Karen makes some good points. When this ordinance was written, what we were considering is our standard one-story long mini warehousing units, and we didn't want them to look like metal Quonsets. And so the requirement is that the exterior building material shall be masonry, concrete, wood, or metal simulated wood. They've ensured that those that are traditional, where you can back up and unload into them, they do have that concrete siding. On a commercial development, when it's 2-3 stories tall, there is no architectural design features that we can implement. So even though those taller structures will have metal components to them, for the average individual driving down the road, they won't even realize that that's storage going on inside of those. They will think it's similar to other commercial structures that are in this very area. So with that, looking at it, I appreciate Eric's comment about you can landscape a 3-to-1 slope, but when there's floodplain and wetlands involved, we prefer not to disturb that soil. So again, a lot of time, we've suspended this one a time or two, knowing that there would be comments to ensure that we preserve the integrity of Katrin Boulevard, a gateway into our community, part of what's known as the Heartland Express. And I think that we've come up with a good compromise with the applicants so that we are getting that infill development, but we're preserving the integrity of this high-end commercial residential neighborhood.
I wanted to comment, and it's much what Vicki had to say. The taller, larger buildings are what dominate the view of this, in my opinion, and the effort that's been put into making those, I would say, design friendly. Design is a very personal thing, but they're obviously have more effort into making them visually appealing than a general steel building. So I appreciate that, and I think it'll be noticeable. Eric Heikus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll put the landscape architect hat on. So what I see mostly, the landscape plan uses a lot of Colorado spruce. They make a very fine buffer. They'll be 35 to 40 feet tall, and it's mixed in with a couple of medium-sized ornamental trees. You've got a really nice buffering aspect on the majority of all sides. And in some places, you've got too deep. So it's a pleasurable, enjoyable design, Eric, I would add. So, you know, those are big trees, or they will be big trees in their maturity. So I don't have any issues with the landscape plan at all. So thanks.
Karen.
I just wanted to add one comment that the building itself and the project that's there, the tall buildings and the design of those buildings, I think are admirable for that situation. And I think that it will look very nice up there. I travel that road every day, so I'll be seeing it. So I did have one other question, just a minor question. A lot of times the where you have U-Haul, they're outside, but these are designed to be inside the building, if I understand correctly.
The storage units?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to just put a footnote in. On these renderings we're seeing, what we're not seeing is the proposed mature landscaping. So that we don't get the benefit of that in these perspectives. So just adding that clarification.
All right, other questions or comments on item number 8?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Vince made the motion to approve item number 8 with the 6 stipulations.
With 6 stipulations.
And there were 2 seconds called out for Eric Hikas, second one. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 9. Okay. Haven is going to abstain from item 9. Go for it, Kip.
Good morning, Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning Manager. Item number 9 is 23 UR 033, which is a major amendment to a conditional use permit to expand a medical cannabis cultivation establishment. The property is located on Rand Road, as you can see here, up near off of Deadwood Avenue in an existing industrial area. Hold on. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties this morning, so bear with me. There we go. Property is zoned light industrial, as consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, with some general agricultural district behind it. That's the old Fountain Springs Golf Course and a big drainage area, so there's quite a buffer from the existing or surrounding properties. Future land use identifies the appropriate use as light industrial, and Rand Road is classified as a collector street on the city's major street plan. Little history on the project. Exactly. So in February of 2022, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit to allow a medical cannabis cultivation establishment at this location, which was approved as stipulations. And then in April of 2023, there was a major amendment to a conditional use permit to allow a medical cannabis manufacturing facility in a separate building to be constructed on this property. This application proposes to expand the medical cannabis cultivation in the existing building by 605 square feet. The total building square footage is 4,400 square feet. Currently, there are 3,092 square feet permitted for cultivation, and this will allow for a 605 square foot expansion, bringing the total area of the medical cannabis cultivation to 3,697 square feet. The rest of the building will be reserved for storage. This is a site plan showing the existing building located here. And this, you've seen this before, obviously. All the landscaping was put in place to provide a buffer from the drainage area to the back, and there will be some landscaping in the front as well to provide a buffer. This is the building that was approved in April of 2023 for a medical cannabis manufacturing facility that is currently under construction, which you'll see in my site photos. And then the area of expansion of the cultivation is located back in this corner of the building. And showing this on the site plan itself, this is the building, and this hatched area up here is the expansion of the cultivation area. All the rest of this area in white is currently used for cultivation, And then looking down here, this little area right here is the only area that's not allowed for cannabis cultivation under this major amendment to a conditional use permit. This is the exiting plan for the main floor and the second floor, showing how people would evacuate in case of any sort of emergency. Took some site photos the other day. You can see that the sign has been posted on the property. They weren't able to get it in the ground because of the frozen ground, so they had to put it up on their fence, but it is available to view from the street. This is showing the front of the building. This is looking out towards Rand Road. This is the medical cannabis manufacturing facility that was permitted in April of 2023, currently under construction. This is looking out across Rand Road to the neighboring properties, so there's a lot of industrial type use, auto repair, things like that. And then this is looking into the facility, and so again, that area of expansion will be back in this corner of the building. I spoke with the applicant. He informed me that the only reason the gate was open when I was out there taking pictures is because they were anticipating the garbage pickup right here. Otherwise, that gate is normally closed for security purposes. So I just happened to luck into catching him like that. Again, this was allowed use or a permitted conditional use was approved back in 2022. There have been no complaints from the neighbors. I believe the applicant has stated that they have some positive comments from the neighbors that based on all of their security cameras that they have, they feel for the cannabis facility, some of the neighbors feel that enhances their security as well. And staff recommends approval of this expansion of the medical cannabis cultivation establishment with the stipulations outlined in the staff report. The applicant is here for any questions, and I will stand by.
Thanks, Kip. Any questions for staff? Comments on this item? Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could ask the applicant, because obviously he's done his research, and I was wondering, have you heard of any other problems that in other areas, not here, that have caused you to increase security or add security items?
Once you're up, if you identify yourself.
Nevada Ellison. You know, most of these cannabis facilities are very secure. I haven't heard of any place that has had theft problems so far. We've actually ran off a couple thieves from our neighbors trying to steal catalytic converters, so they're pretty grateful for that. We ran 2 off Alani's and a guy trying to steal a truck from the dent repair guy. So we haven't had any issues. We intentionally don't put signage up. I'm a 5th generation rancher, and I know being a good neighbor is really important, so I try to touch base with most of our neighbors and ask them if there's any issues. And we haven't had any so far. Even with guys walking through our neighbors, they still have no idea what we are. So I think we're sitting in a pretty good place with security, and I haven't heard anything statewide so far from anybody getting robbed.
Can I ask you a follow-up though? So how are your employees? How have they accepted it, or what are their thoughts about working there?
We treat our employees very well. We're a small company. We're one of the smallest grows in the area. We pay our guys really well. We run lean. The cannabis industry is really tough. 80% of licenses will probably fail in the first couple of years. So we run pretty lean on employees. We vet them heavily. A lot of them are people that I know from basketball in high school, and they come and have worked for us. And we treat them well, and they really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Vicki?
Thank you, Vince. Good comments. Important to note that our regulations are in place with strict security protocol, and before they get that certificate of occupancy, that inspection is performed to ensure that it is in place and operational. Again, all employees of these facilities have to go through a background check. The police department runs these. If there's an issue with anyone, they can't work there.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yeah, Kip.
They also coordinate with the fire department on fire sprinkler protection of the entire facility, so that'll be up to code with that. And just on another note, when I was out taking pictures the other day, there was absolutely no odor of any kind right outside the facility, so kudos to them for their filtration systems, and they're doing a great job. So again, you would never know what's going on inside that building unless you've done your homework and looked at these agendas or anything, but anybody driving by would just think it's a standard industrial building.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Vince made the motion to approve item 9 with stipulations.
With stipulations.
And Eric Heikus seconded that motion. And Haven is abstaining from this. I'll just say it again. Any other comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of the regular agenda today. Any staff items, planning commission items? Vicky, if I can get you.
Well, it seems like a long time since we've seen you guys, since we don't have that second meeting in December, so a belated Happy New Year. We are finally getting to the point where we will be fully staffed in our current long-range and project planning divisions. Jessica Olson will be joining us at our next meeting. She is the new current planning division manager, so I'll be anxious to introduce her to you. That was a position that I held for 20-some years, and it's been a hard position for me to fill. But this team has held the fort down and filled in while I've held that position open, looking for just the right fit. So I'm really excited. We see great things coming. Having this amount of staff on hand, we will be coming at you with many ordinance amendments. We've talked about landscape islands just as one that's always an issue with design. So look out, you're going to start seeing several of those on agendas.
All right, thanks. Mike Kwasny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just throwing, we have an event coming up January 13th. It's bowling coats for kids. We actually, through the group that I work with, we provided almost 500 coats to kids that needed them last year through this bowling program. So the fire department, I don't know if they have a bowling team yet. In the past they have. It's he told me that they didn't have golfers, so he wouldn't do my golf, but I would challenge him to get a bowling team together. And if the city would like to join us, anybody that wants to bowl, it's a fun event, and it's out of the Meadowwood, January 13th, raising a lot of money for a really needy project.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Haven?
It seems like this traffic issue on Sheridan Lake Road comes up a lot. And I know they're doing, there was an apartment complex that opened, that's been a year or two ago. And of course, new housing in that area that we annexed and approved that development. And so what is the report here? I hear from some of the residents, but I was wondering what the city has seen on that issue.
Vicky? I'll let you start.
Thank you. So, one of the issues is that Sheridan Lake Road in part is in the city limits and in part is out in the county. The signal itself, we have received concerns with people saying it takes one light. They have to hold a light before they can get through. For any of us who've lived in larger areas, it's like that is not a problem yet. But when you live in rural South Dakota, that is discerning to many. We've worked well with the city's traffic engineer, and they've altered the timing on that light and synced it with Catron Boulevard so that traffic is moving. Movements are flowing through, and it is getting many more cars in and out without delaying people through a full light sequence. So again, that limitation of funding and the fact that a big portion of this is out in the county. Maybe Roger could visit a little bit about the Sheridan Lake Road project that's coming up. That's for that part that's in the city limits.
All right, Roger. I thought I had it. What?
I can talk loudly, but then she can't hear me. Well, yeah, thank you. The other thing I'd point out on that light, and I assume you're talking about the one at Dunsmore, is the one we get a lot of complaints on. The light is operated in conjunction with the county. Any changes we make to the signal timing, everything, we have to go through the county to get those approved. As far as the Sheridan Lake Road project, we're very anxious for that. As you guys know, we are widening Sheridan Lake Road from Corral Drive to Catron Boulevard to 5 lanes and providing dual turn lanes from Sheridan Lake Road to Catron Boulevard and dual turn lanes from Sheridan Lake Road onto Corral Drive. Along with this, we're adding another lane on Corral Drive to facilitate the school traffic. We've been working very closely with the school system on how we're going to work all this and everything else. We did have a successful bidder on that. It's Reedy Construction out of Aberdeen is the low bidder. I've worked with them before, good quality contractor. They did a portion of Rushmore Road down here years ago, but that should help. It's going to be really uncomfortable for a while. We anticipate, like I said earlier, the traffic signal at Moon Meadows as part of the project. That'll be installed before Memorial Day. Following Memorial Day and once school's out, construction will start on Sheridan Lake Road. We expect it to take about 15 months. We've also put a very hefty incentive on the project that if for every day they are done prior to the completion date, they will earn $10,000 incentive up to $1 million. So we are very cognizant of the number of people that drive through that area. Just to give you an idea, it's somewhere between 16 and 19,000 cars per day that we're pushing through a funnel right now. And it's very, for those that drive it every day, they understand. Fortunately, I live north of there and I don't have to go through that anymore. My kids are grown and gone, but my wife did for many years. We're very excited for the project. I've talked to the contractor. They're putting their plan together, and we're going to start having partnering meetings with them. And then we will go out and have public meetings, and you'll see more in the news as we move along with it. That's just one of many. If you read the Journal here this last week, we put out a big presser on how many projects we have coming up this year. So if you're interested, I'd encourage you to reach out to the Journal or find the Journal and read all those. We just put the major ones on there. We didn't hit every little project out there, but we got a lot of work going on. It's a very exciting year for us.
So we've got to work with the county.
I lost you, David.
Got to work with the county then on both on Sheridan Lake Road and Moon Meadows. So hopefully we can work something out with them and get some cooperation so it benefit both the county and the city.
Yeah, we have worked very diligently. We have a very good working relationship with the County Highway Department. I meet with Joe Miller, the County Highway Superintendent, at a minimum of once a month, and we just discuss our common issues and different things that we have. And we seem to be along the same lines in a lot of ways. So, and we agree on most items. We don't agree on all, don't get me wrong, but we agree on most items. So.
All right. Eric, are you up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Jonathan and Tanner and Kip this morning for the excellent job you did. And I wanted to reiterate my comments about the amount of work that goes into these final development plans and a lot of the stuff we're doing. You know, we get to see it here for about 3-4 minutes, but, you know, a lot of work goes into these, both from the consultant side and then from the individual planners doing the work. So kudos. Vicki, have you introduced the person sitting next to you yet? Sorry.
I couldn't remember either, so I asked her earlier, did I introduce you last meeting? She assured me that I did. This is Cassie Hayes.
Okay.
She is one of our current planners. She used to work for Pennington County Planning.
Okay.
How long ago? 5 years ago. Well, I knew her then. I would go over to county DIRT meetings, development review team meetings, and I kept thinking, one of these days, she's going to work for us. So we were very pleased when we saw that she applied for one of our positions, and she hasn't failed us. She's amazing.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike, did you have another?
Yeah, I did have
Okay.
a comment here. Thanks, Haven, for bringing up that Moon Meadows, because I think that's going to become a very busy intersection with a combination of Sheridan Lake Road and the Highway 16 Catron. I think Moon Meadows, I don't know if they can handle what's going to come to them because that road, I'm sure, is already getting busy, but it's explode with those projects. And I'm glad to see that Sheridan Lake Road is finally getting something done to it. I think it will help immensely. So.
Vince?
Oh, thanks, Mr. Chair. Since we're talking about roads, my car thinks whoever finally fixed that railroad crossing between Omaha and Fifth, on Fifth Street, rather, Omaha and Main. And so, yes, thank you.
All right, anything else to discuss today? Okay, Mike Gallagher made the motion to adjourn. Vince seconded it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye.